receive SNAP, in comparison to a situation where SNAP didn't exist, in other words, where nobody received SNAP, we would have food insecurity rates 14.9 percentage points lower. At a minimum, they may even lower. This is an incredible success story for a food assistance program, or any program. If only all of our government programs could be this great, right? SNAP works. It's a great program. So, at any rate, so I want to put it as foundation is that how can we resist things that might hurt SNAP? Okay, this is the most, coming back to your question about recent cuts to SNAP. There's been, fortunately, I haven't seen much traction for this in the United States, I mean in Illinois, but in other states there's been this, it comes from both the left and the right. In New York City started out with this where they wanted to ban SNAP to be used to purchase things like Gatorade, things like Coca-Cola, things like Lipton iced tea, things like V8. In other words, any sugar-sweetened beverage. New York City put forth this proposal. USDA rightly denied this. This came from the left. You know, it's those crazy. In New York, a lot of judgmental people in New York City. And in particular, they were judgmental about other people. They say, I should tell you what to eat. Now, that's New York City, from the left.
Bloomberg's not a left.
What?
Come on, Bloomberg isn't a left.
No, but the public health department there is, you're right, Bloomberg's not a left. And I'd be interested to see what Blasio says about this. But then, on the right, it became a thing. Is that, for example, Governor Haley in South Carolina had the exact same proposal as the New York group to limit reduction. So it started out as something on the left, it's becoming the right. But this has the potential to cause grave, grave damage to the food stamp program if this was implemented. In other words, this will cause two things. Right now, you can use SNAP for just about any food item. So there's a few exceptions. You can't use it to purchase rotisserie chickens or things like that, but in the main, you can use it for any SNAP purchases. These proposals would limit what you can purchase with SNAP. This would have caused grave damage to the program. Remember I said earlier, stigma is one of the things that are preventing people from going to SNAP? How would you like if I'm a parent and I'm going shopping with my child and then I'm being told by the government that I can't buy Gatorade for my child because it's not healthy enough? And that's patronizing to parents to say, we're going to tell you what you can and can't eat. Or to say to a senior, oh, we're now going to tell you how you can eat. I mean, come on. And the reason I'm vehemently against this also is that every year I get a mortgage tax deduction. Nobody's telling me how to spend my mortgage tax deduction. Why do we think we can tell low-income Americans how they can spend their money? Or when I used to work for the Department of Agriculture, nobody told me how I could spend my paycheck. Why do we think it's okay to tell low-income Americans? I find it really patronizing and offensive. And I could talk more about this, and I've written about this. If anybody's interested, we can talk more about this. So the first thing we do is, going back to your comment, those small cutbacks hurt, yes. Changing the fundamental structure would do even more grave damage to our country. The other things is, these are some of the things that I like to talk about, and in the interest of time I'm not going to go over them, but these are some of the things, is to reduce stigma associated with participation is something that I'd like to see, including having commercials about how great SNAP is. That'd be something good. Okay, the next thing is research has shown that the National School Lunch Program is a key reducer of food insecurity in the United States amongst children. This is for two reasons. First of all, is you're giving children a meal, or two, National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program, I should have put that up there too, but I concentrate on the National School Lunch Program here. You're giving them a meal, which means the family doesn't have to pay for that meal, which allows the family to consume more food. So it has both an impact on the children and on the parents. I mean, the whole household. So National School Lunch Program is really a neat program in terms of reducing food insecurity amongst children, but also amongst households. And these programs are not small. I mean, for every child that gets supposed to get both a school breakfast and a school lunch for free a week, that amounts to about $30 worth of food. So it's a non-trivial amount of money that these children are getting that helps out the families and themselves. So what is, two things I would say is, What, I don't know how to put this. School meals already are pretty healthy. I got school meals when I was a kid. They're much healthier, when I see my kids are, much healthier now than they were 30 years ago. But you have these people who want to keep pushing to make them healthier and healthier. On the surface, that sounds great. Who doesn't want healthier meals? So they implemented stricter standards for school lunches. So what's happened? Two things have happened. Fewer kids are getting meals now. Because, I mean, kids anywhere, if they don't like the food, they're not going to eat it. So therefore, you made them healthier, because like, I don't want to eat that. So then the family now, they no longer get a free lunch. They have to pay for it. So it's like a $60 swing, $30 that you were getting free, now you have to pay for that. A lot of schools have stopped serving school lunches because they don't want to adhere to these new healthy standards. And these have especially been in areas, so therefore what happens? If a school's not on a school lunch program, these low-income kids can no longer get free meals. And this all causes a great deal of damage. So whenever we think about healthy, 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 let's recognize that we eat food for many different, at least I do, I don't even think about the health of my food at all, but is that we all eat for many different reasons. And we have to recognize that a lot of eating healthy oftentimes means less calories, less other things. These kids are struggling to get enough calories in a day. And by making these meals, quote-unquote, healthier, may make them less appealing to the kids. They may not get enough food. So that's the other thing, is that we have to think carefully about some of the consequences of some of these things. The other thing is that you'll see at food pantries and other places, you see reports all the time of spikes in children coming to food pantries over the summertime because the family doesn't get a school lunch program. So therefore, if we can figure out, and the USD has a lot of really neat ways to provide more funding for lunch programs over the summer. Okay. Food banks are fantastic. I can't say enough good stuff about them. There's two main ways that I see food banks helping out us, and there's multiples of them, but I wanted to emphasize two of them. First of all is a lot of SNAP recipients, they may run out of food by the end of the month. Food banks are there for them to provide them that extra supplemental food, that at the margin they help them out. Food banks are also great is because there's about 50 million Americans who are food insecure. About 15 million of them are not eligible for any federal food assistance programs. They have nowhere else to turn but these food banks. It's really, really an important resource. So I can't emphasize enough about the food banks. So, the main thing is just continue to provide our time, talent, and treasures to our food banks. So I'm always thankful for your work, Donna, because it's really, really, really important to our Champaign community, the Champaign-Urbana community, that you do that work. So that's what things. Now I want to come to the final couple things. If you give me a certain amount of money, for those of you, if you give me a certain amount of money to purchase food, the amount of money that I can purchase depends on how much money I have, but also those prices of foods. Okay? We see it again and again. In areas with higher food prices, they have higher rates of food insecurity. That makes perfect sense. Okay? Your real income is what matters. Now, we have to ensure low food prices in the United States. And I think that there's a few key ways we do this. It's a question.
Food versus fuel. Corn and soybeans are used for biodiesel, corn for corn ethanol. A couple of years ago, corn prices went up quite a bit, and the prices was blamed on, a lot of it was blamed on food versus fuel. What's your perspective on that?
So there has been some studies that have looked at this, that with soybeans it didn't affect the price. The biodiesel market is pretty small for soybeans, so it really did not have much of an influence on that. The main reason soybean prices rose is that China's demand for soybeans has skyrocketed. That's the main reason that was driving up higher food prices there. I'm less familiar with corn. Some of the analysis I've seen, at least in the U.S. food markets, is that corn is such a small proportion of overall food, that's made much of an influence. But other countries, like, where corn constitutes, it could have had an impact. In the United States, probably not much of an impact. But globally, it